A construction crew in Europe digs into the ground for a new foundation. The machines roar, steel biting into the earth. Then suddenly they stop. Something pale has appeared in the soil. At first, it looks like stone, a dull shape beneath the dirt. But then someone looks closer and realizes the truth. It is not stone. It is a human bone. Scenes like this still happen today. Farmers turning their fields sometimes uncover rusted helmets, tangled deep in the roots of old trees. Hikers walking through silent forests notice old dog tags, glinting faintly beneath the leaves. Metal detector enthusiasts search for forgotten relics. Then suddenly, a signal. Sharp, unexpected. They dig, and what they uncover is far more unsettling. A skeleton. Not ancient, not medieval. A soldier from the Second World War. Sometimes the remains look almost frozen in time. Boots still laced, fragments of uniform clinging to bone, a rifle lying only inches away as if the battle ended just moments ago. And sometimes there is an identity tag, a name that has been missing since 1945. Because even after 80 years, the war has not completely disappeared. Tens of thousands of soldiers from World War II are still officially missing, which raises a disturbing question. If the war ended long ago, why are its dead still being found today? And the deeper researchers dig, the stranger the answers become. War does not end neatly when the guns fall silent. Many battlefields never gave their dead back. During the war, artillery alone could erase entire sections of terrain. Thousands of shells tore through forests and farmland. Soil flipped. Trenches collapsed. Soldiers buried where they fell. A single bombardment could reshape the ground so completely that the original battlefield simply vanished. Retreat made it worse. When armies pulled back under pressure, there was no time to collect the fallen. Bodies remained where they dropped, quickly swallowed by mud, debris, and shifting earth. Winter buried them even deeper. On the Eastern Front, snowstorms covered men where they died. When spring thaw arrived, the landscape had changed again. In the Pacific, the jungle moved even faster. Dense roots, explosive vegetation. The forest reclaimed battlefields almost immediately. Over time, nature finished what the fighting started. In many places, the war didn't just kill soldiers. It hid them, and some of the places they vanished would remain untouched for decades. Sometimes the most unsettling discoveries happen nowhere near a battlefield. Search teams expect to find remains along old front lines, trenches, defensive positions, known killing zones. But occasionally, a skeleton appears somewhere impossible, deep inside quiet forests, hidden beneath collapsed bunkers, or lying alone near the ruins of a long-abandoned field hospital. These discoveries raise difficult questions. If the battle happened miles away, how did a soldier end up here? Sometimes the answer slowly emerges. A wounded man may have tried to crawl away from the fighting. A small unit may have become lost during a chaotic retreat. Others were separated from their comrades and simply vanished into unfamiliar terrain. Official records rarely capture these moments. War reports focus on divisions and victories, not on individuals who disappeared between the lines. Yet every unexpected discovery hints at something unsettling. The final hours of many soldiers were never witnessed at all. And sometimes, the ground reveals clues that make those final moments painfully clear. When search teams carefully uncover remains, the earth sometimes reveals more than bones. It reveals the final seconds of a life interrupted by war. A rusted rifle lies across skeletal hands. In a pocket, folded paper survives, protected by the body from rain and soil. A letter from home. Words written months earlier by someone who never knew the ending. Sometimes there is a photograph, a wife, a child, faces staring up from a piece of paper that traveled across continents and battlefields. Even watches are found, their hands frozen forever. At the moment the mechanism stopped, But the most haunting clues are not always objects. They are positions. Some soldiers are discovered still crouched, as if bracing for incoming fire. Others lie beside collapsed trenches, their bodies twisted where the earth gave way under bombardment. These scenes transform distant history into something painfully human, because every discovery whispers the same question: what exactly happened here in those final moments? And sometimes entire groups are found, suggesting the answer was far worse than anyone recorded. The search for the missing did not end when the war did. In many places, it quietly continues. Specialized teams still move across old battlefields every year. The German war graves commission surveys forests and farmland across Europe. In the United States, the Defense POW/MIA accounting agency tracks soldiers who never returned home. Across Russia and Eastern Europe, volunteer search groups comb forgotten front lines. Their work begins with fragments of history, old wartime maps, faded reports, witness accounts recorded decades ago. Then, they move into the landscape itself. Metal detectors sweep slowly across the soil. Ground-penetrating radar scans beneath the surface. Sometimes a single rusted button or an ammunition casing reveals where soldiers once fell. When remains are found, the process becomes careful, deliberate, every object documented, every fragment preserved, because the goal is not simply recovery. It is identification, to return a name to someone who disappeared in the chaos of war. And sometimes these searches uncover something far larger than anyone expected. Sometimes a team expects to find one soldier. Instead, they uncover many. The first sign is often a cluster of metal signals beneath the soil. When archaeologists begin to dig, the ground slowly reveals something far larger than a single grave. Collapsed trenches filled with bodies. Shallow pits where soldiers were buried quickly during chaotic retreats. Or the remains of field hospitals, where the wounded arrived faster than anyone could treat them. In parts of Eastern Europe, search teams have uncovered dozens of soldiers in a single location. Rows of uniforms tangled together beneath layers of earth and roots. Many were buried hastily while the battle still raged nearby. Others were never buried at all. They simply vanished where they fell, later hidden by shifting soil and growing forests. These discoveries expose a harsher truth behind many famous battles. Official reports recorded victories, movements, strategy. But the ground remembers something different. And in some places, it still holds entire fragments of armies that never made it home. Even after decades of searching, the number of missing soldiers remains staggering. Germany still lists hundreds of thousands whose bodies were never recovered. The Soviet Union lost millions whose final resting places remain unknown. The United States still accounts for more than 70,000 service members missing from the war. Each number represents a life that vanished somewhere between battle and burial. Some lie beneath quiet forests that once echoed with artillery. Others rest beneath farmland where crops now grow above forgotten trenches. Many remain lost at sea, beside sunken ships or aircraft scattered across the ocean floor. Others disappeared on remote islands where jungle swallowed entire battlefields. And there is another problem. Some locations are simply too dangerous to search. Unexploded bombs, buried munitions still contaminate former front lines, turning recovery work into a deadly risk, which means a difficult truth remains. A vast number of soldiers from World War II may never be found, and the ground is still holding their stories. A construction crew begins digging for a new building. Machines cut into soil that has not been disturbed for decades. Suddenly, the operator stops. Something has appeared in the dirt. Workers gather around. They look closer, and slowly, they realize what they are seeing. It happens more often than most people think. Farmers plowing fields sometimes strike metal. That turns out to be a rusted helmet. Hikers walking through silent forests notice a small tag half buried beneath leaves. And occasionally, the ground reveals something far more haunting: a soldier who never made it home. Nearly 80 years have passed since the Second World War ended, cities rebuilt, forests grown back, entire landscapes transformed. But beneath the soil, pieces of that war remain, quiet, unseen, waiting. And historians understand something unsettling. The Earth still holds countless untold stories from that conflict. And every year, it gives a few of them back,